Hey guys, my name is Dominic from Newland, and today I will be presenting you with an internationalisation strategy for FreshCo New Zealand. FreshCo finds itself in a prosperous and promising market situation in the domestic New Zealand market. This being said, FreshCo has positioned itself almost perfectly for global internationalisation and has already started with a strong 15,000 tonnes of exports annually. FreshCo has partnered with many brands across New Zealand to create a strong infrastructure and a fully integrated supply chain. These companies include Coxco, Tender Tips Asparagus Company, NH Packaging, and Sage Fruit. Second to this, FreshCo has embarked two joint ventures with key apple growers in Nelson, establishing FreshCo Nelson Limited, and in Gisborne/Hawke's Bay, creating a business to manage exports to Japan and Korea. I believe it is wisest for FreshCo to focus their exports on one product for the beginning of the internationalisation process. I've chosen apples as with New Zealand's unique combination of warm summer sunshine, crisp winter frosts, and clean pure waters. Apples can ripen slowly, naturally, and with absolute minimum human interaction. All of this results in a naturally crisp texture and intense flavour that supposedly create the world's best apples. The opportunity here sparks in utilising the untapped European market, which has some of the largest apple percentages in the world. While the Sonia and Breeze apples are best suited to the sweeter Asian palates, the company also grows standard varieties such as Royal Gala, Queen, Pink Lady, Braeburn, which is most commonly known in Europe, which are more acidic varieties grown for the European market. When it comes to strengths for FreshCo and the world produce export market, there are multiple factors. The first is that New Zealand orchards are counter-seasonal to the Northern Hemisphere, meaning that there are only 4 to 5 competitors with the same ability to supply and produce apples in the off-season. These competitors are Chile, Argentina, South Africa, Southern Brazil, and Australia. The second point is that New Zealand has strong biosecurity systems that identify risks and help monitor entry points. New Zealand is mostly pest and disease free in the produce industry, meaning that getting access to EU regulations should be fairly simple. Third point is that New Zealand produce industry is leaning towards fewer small operations, with larger operations dominating the scene, an advantage for FreshCo as it is already a large and dominating infrastructure in New Zealand. The fourth point is that aging baby boomers focus on healthy and functional foods, so apples being very nutritious are a highlight and a spotlight in this area. Some risks and weaknesses to be aware of for FreshCo is that a crop will take 4 to 5 years before reaching mature age to grow apples, meaning that supply must be planned years ahead. It's also the fact that Braeburns are commonly produced by competitors, therefore the demand for them is lesser. There is also a significant lack of workers and labour, which has been directly affected by COVID. Production of apples in China is still on the rise, with an estimate of 21 to 24 million tonnes being harvested annually, and unstable climate conditions impact not only the production rate, but the quality of the apples. Some challenges that we should look out for FreshCo is that in 2005, New Zealand saw a major collapse of the European apple market due to an unforeseen drop in retail value. Since then, New Zealand apple exports have largely looked at Asia as their main destination. However, with continuous exposure to overseas produce and culture due to social media, it is high time a New Zealand company restore the dominant spread of a New Zealand apple export market. Another challenge is that while sourcing workers remain an issue, perhaps FreshCo should consider utilising its future connections in Europe and create some sort of offering to European travellers in which they can work in orchards over the summer, similarly to how New Zealanders complete an OE in Europe. For FreshCo to prosper, it's important that we have a look at the resource-based factors which affect its produce. Firstly, the temperature and climate dramatically control the output of apple growers. Second, its life cycle of 4 to 5 years before apple crop reaches maturity means that it must be planned well on ahead, and the clean and available water affect the quality of apples. This is very important as New Zealand has a perfect condition for all 3 of these, meaning that apples can grow with perfect quality, crispness, and texture. Some industry-based factors is that the current industry structure has been created for New Zealand's long history in produce, and that new firms will continue to invest in the New Zealand produce industry as it looks promising. When working internationally, there are a multitude of institutional-based factors at hand. The first will be complying with New Zealand exporting regulations, meaning that we meet food safety requirements and have provided necessary documentation. Second, We must comply with the import regulations of the European Union, Eurasian Economic Union, and the United Kingdom. These conditions include a limited use of pesticides, avoiding contaminants, plant health and phytosanitary regulations, and meeting marketing standards. Lastly, the NZ-EU and NZ-UK free trade agreements are of great benefit to us as it allows for reduced costs and better pricing. So how do we go about this? Well, to maximize clarity and efficiency, we'll use a familiar strategy to FreshCo, that being an export mode of entry into the foreign markets. Not only does the strategy suit the situation best, but is the same mode used for entry into the Asian markets. The strategy is important because the risk for FreshCo is relatively low due to avoided expenses and a pre-existing supply chain. Germany, UK, and Russia are three of Europe's biggest apple importers. Germany and the UK come under special prioritization as New Zealand already has an existing free trade agreement which will largely increase profit margins and allow for competitive pricing. Whilst it may take time to advance on the expansion to Russia due to their current situation with Ukraine, they should not be overlooked as they have a history of importing massive amounts of apples which they cannot grow themselves. Depending on FreshCo's moral compass, there is an opportunity here to create humongous profit margins as many countries have stopped supplying Russia, therefore the demand to supply ratio is greatly imbalanced. The disadvantages to this are the company's little control over marketing and distribution, high transportation costs, and a limited view of customer experience. In addition to this, some challenges that arise are managing logistics and complying with foreign trade regulations. To best combat the risks and challenges listed in the previous slide, I suggest that FreshCo do a joint venture with Fresh Food Co. European Union. In doing so, Fresh Food Co. EU will not only handle our marketing and distribution problems, but assist with local customer experiences, managing logistics, and complying with EU export regulations. As we can see, Germany is not only the largest importer of apples in the world, but pays the most per kg of the countries targeted. It is due to this that we will target to sell twice the number of apples than supplied to the UK and Russia. In total, FreshCo will aim to supply 1 million kgs or 1,000 tonnes of apples, presenting itself far within the parameters of the previous year's exports of 15,000 tonnes. It is important to stay within these parameters of last year's exports, as the company will have to create more apples than before to increase exports rather than replace them. Here are some graphs to show the company's sales between Germany, UK, and the Russian Federation, as well as the gross revenue earned between Germany, UK, and Russia. Feel free to pause the video here if you'd like to look at my bibliography. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope the knowledge that I provided you has given you something to think about, and this has been Dominic from Vermeulen, signing out.